So it'll tell you when we're on. All right,
We're on
we
here
are
live.
live. All right, so welcome. This is the October 21st Homeowners Association meeting for the Mission Viejo Homeowners Association. We do have a quorum, so I will call the meeting to order at 6:30. The first item on our agenda is an open members forum. We do have a few folks here. Did you have any comments that you wanted to make of items that are not on the agenda tonight?
Yeah, probably a couple of things we wanted to bring up.
Okay.
Working.
All right.
No, go ahead. Okay. My wife lately has kind of been noticing some bad things around the neighborhood. You know, trees that are ready to fall over. And she made some calls on them, and I mean, almost the very next day, trash was removed from houses, trees are coming down. So I thought,
there was a mattress spraying out in the front of the house for a week.
I think City of
It
Aurora.
rained on it twice. I feel like I live in the slums.
Yeah, you know, we constantly remind folks that, you know, first of all, any trash that's going to be going out to the curb for whatever day your trash pickup is, has to be kept behind a fenced area, and that it's actually against city ordinance. So by calling Access Aurora, you did the right thing, because they turned around, came out, cited them, and told them you have this much time to get rid of it. And if not, then not only will they cite you again, but they also fine you on top of that, and that fine can be pretty hefty. So I appreciate you to turn around and do that.
They have responded to anything
Well, I've called about trees too, asked for trees that, one going into our subdivision, there's 2 or 3 dead ones, first house is Z. So I told, they said, oh, that's a hazard because they can fall on the house or whatever. So within a week, there was a company out there taking them in.
You know, and it is kind of curious. It all depends on, the type of tree that it is, number one. And I know that there's a lot of dead trees that are in the neighborhood, and we're constantly, asking the city to take a look at what's there. Unfortunately, because of there's not enough manning with the code enforcement folks. They don't have the ability to be proactive. They're reactive in what it is that we turn around and tell them. So thank you for turning around and making those calls and continue to do so.
I think we're a little afraid. We've been here in this neighborhood 25 years, and it's going down. So many of those turns get on the owners.
It is, and I will tell you that, based upon the charge that the HOA has, right? Years ago, we had a management company, and that management company went around. And people turned around and told us, we don't want the management company because they're sucking up all of our money, right? And out of the $100,000 that we had in annual budget, about $80,000 of that went to a management company. That means that a lot of the stuff that we're doing, right, has to be self-managed, right? And so the board itself turned around and came up with new criteria and said, we will not actively go out and seek the problems in the community. I mean, certainly if we see one, we'll turn around and we'll take notice of it and so on and so forth. But we rely on you, the homeowner, to turn around and let us know if there's an issue. And what you tried to do to at a close monthly meeting, make that decision and then move forward with it. And we would always try to maintain the privacy of the homeowner that is filing the complaint, but the complaint cannot be with an arbitrary name on it. We have to know who the homeowner is, because if we go forward to court, the courts ask us whether or not that homeowner is willing to step forward. And if they're not, a lot of times our case is kind of dead in the water, because we're here to represent you. And that's where our power is derived. So you kind of know how that all works. Okay?
Anyway, that's,
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys turning around and continuing to look out for ways to keep our community clean and keep the values up. We really do appreciate that.
oh, I just had an idea, you know, they're always calling for volunteers. I'm getting to an age where I don't even want to do my stuff around my own house, you know, but I felt that I would be willing, and I don't know whether other people would, to like hire a teenager who lives in the house. I'll sponsor him. I'll pay him to come do my work while you're, you know, you guys usually work 4, 5, 6 hours. Pay the kid, you know, $10 an hour. You know, he benefits from it. I feel like I'm giving something back.
Certainly, if that's something that you feel that you want to do, we would most certainly appreciate it. You know, it is very difficult, and we feel like we're winding up with the same volunteers all the time, and we know that we have an aging community. And it's unfortunate that, you know, with an aging community comes the idea that, you know, a lot of us can't get out there and do it ourselves, but without the budget money to be able to do it either, it makes it rather difficult to be able to get out there and get all those things done. So we appreciate the offer.
I thought maybe you could put something in the monthly newspaper.
All right,
see
well,
if anybody's interested in that.
our editor is sitting right here, so I'll leave it to him to come up with something to try to put into the newsletter for spring and summer of next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to go through a couple of quick.
I just said, did you see the notice about the rec center closing?
I did see a notice of the rec center closing. November 20th is the date that I got. I've also heard November 2nd. So I'm not sure which of those two dates is right, November 2nd or November 20th.
Like the 18th or 19th is the official.
Is the official close date. It is too bad that they're winding up going to be closing down. I mean, it is, you know, it takes a lot of work both on the business side of it, as well as the residents, you know, wanting to participate in that business to be able to turn around and keep the doors open. And apparently there just wasn't enough revenue stream to keep the doors open.
Actually, the rent was raised again.
Was it raised again?
By a lot,
That's what I heard.
like $20,000, a lot. And that's the problem with the triple clause lease.
Yeah, triple net lease.
Maybe and that help facilitate this is having another neighborhood meeting or something like that off the side, you know, that we could sort of talk about some options that maybe we could do. Maybe not a whole lot that we can do, but maybe soliciting some other folks or.
Yeah, you know, I think that's always been part of the issue is the way that lease is set up, and I know that there's some issues with the homeowner or with the business owner of that property with how things are being taken care of there. And until we get into that situation where there are options being put on the table, somebody else wants to take it or whatever, then we'll continue to hold meetings like we have in the past. I know that he's tried to have that go as a, you know, try to be sold as a church and several other things. And there's a lot of work that's been done to the facility as far as the pool and all this other stuff. So you know, it is zoned as a rec center, and certainly we'd like to see it stay that way. But it is, you know, the HOA will continue to go forward with seeking that. And what I might ask you, Todd, if you can do is let's do another poll out there, and you know, and if we can put one in the newsletter and say, please go to the website. You know, we know that the rec center is closing, so we want to have a pulse from the community as to whether or not they want us to continue to support having a rec center type of thing there, or whether or not we care what other type of business goes in there. I think that would be helpful to us in trying to pursue the right avenue for the community. Is there anybody else that has anything? Elaine?
Well, the last meeting, I'm sure, well, some of you weren't here, but I was speaking about electronic voting. And I spoke last time about how I thought that a lot of too much money was being spent on voting for things that really we can't really have much say about or whatever. And so after last meeting, I decided that I would do some research about how much a mail ballot would cost. And I know that you said last time, Alan, that you felt that a lot of people would benefit from having electronic voting, but I kind of think that the age of the people that live in our neighborhood, I don't think, I'm not very computer literate. Fortunately, I live with someone, my husband, that is very computer literate. But so my computer keeps on working, but I just wonder how many people, I just think that it's worth the try to do a mail-in ballot. And so I thought, I listened to what you said last month, and you said something about it would be cost prohibitive because of the amount of the length of the meeting minutes. You said they were 6 pages, and so I don't think that the format really matters so much. So what I did was I took the minutes from the 2013 meeting, which were about 6 pages, but they were like double spaced, and I took them and I just put them in an order. I didn't leave anything out. Put the 2014 annual meeting minutes, or maybe 2013, I'm not sure which one. And then I put the guest speakers in, and I put the just everything that was in the minutes. I condensed it and I put it on 2 pages. And I put a notice that the annual meeting would be, I just made up a date and time, because I just wanted it to look like what it would be.
Okay.
And so then I contacted FedEx, and I asked them if we double-sided the meeting minutes, and if we double-sided the budget and the people that were running for office, and then if we single-sided the ballot, how much that would be. And on this little piece of paper on the front, it says that the copies, they quoted me for 1,100 copies, double-sided, 2 of them, and then a single-sided copy, they quoted me $396. 2,200 envelopes, and I just looked online and I found this bulk office supply. And so that would include like an envelope to put the information in, and you could also include the discount card in that envelope, and you could 2,200 envelopes from this bulk office supply came to like $64.24.
And let me ask you this, because this is key for me. Okay. First of all, I think the number that they gave you is wrong on the number of copies, because they only turned around and said 550 black, white, one-sided. It's at least double that.
No, if the 550 would be the ballot.
And there are 1,100 or more people that are eligible to vote. And
the ballot would not take more than a half a piece of paper. I mean,
and then, so you're then talking about cutting, you're
says
talking
you're
about
just
doing all this other stuff, right? Who's going to turn around and address every envelope? Who's going to turn around and who's going to stuff every envelope? And how long do you expect that to take before it goes to the post office?
Last time you said, when I said that I would get a group of people together that would volunteer to help, you said that you didn't like the same people volunteering all the time.
I don't.
But you've been on the board for like 12 years. So
I've been on the board for 15 years.
Well, 15 years, so you are the same person that's volunteering. So if I want to volunteer and I want to find people in the neighborhood to help, that I'm sure that I can. Why is that different? Why can I?
Because I'm not volunteering, over between Christmas and New Year's to get them all out.
It doesn't, I
Hold on.
have to do it ahead of
So,
time.
Todd, you had a comment?
Sure. Just a couple points. Electronic bills. As you say, you don't have a cost of mailing discount cards. I suspect that that's gonna raise up your postage quite a bit.
I
At
took
least
it,
probably double.
Todd, I took it to the post office and
But
I put a
here's-
discount card in, I put all the pieces of paper in, and I gave it to him, and I said, okay, how much does this cost to mail? And he said 49 cents.
Well, they do it by weight, so. it's
I,
gonna
that's what
cost.
he did, he weighed what I had, and I had exactly the amount of stuff.
Here's a couple other points about electronic voting. One of the reasons we went into electronic voting is that it offered number need for us to try to get one. And I don't know, years ago before we did electronic voting, it was very difficult to get that. People were just not participating in the HOA. Electronic voting has increased considerably. And so that, number one, is one aspect. Also the fact that it's done by somebody who's not on the board. It's not anybody that's associated with anyone here. Stake in it, so to speak.
All right.
So with that and the cost savings, I think it's worth it.
You could save $1,489
All right.
by doing a mail-in ballot. That is the
All right.
cost of 62 members' trash service money.
All right,
That
Elaine,
we're spending.
Elaine,
And I
I'm going to
think-
cut you off right there because you're doing this before that issue is on here. I do have a guest speaker that's waiting to speak as well, and I need to continue on with the meeting. I thank you for turning around and submitting your proposal. The board will take a look at it when we reach that issue, and we'll discuss it further at that are not on the agenda. Yes, ma'am.
I have a quick point. I wonder if that would be possible. A lot of trucking purely graduates and post that.
You know, I don't know whether or not that company is still in business. Certainly, we can try to, it is a Mission Viejo resident. We can ask them again if it's something that they would offer. I know that if the houses are close together, when you do that, it makes it a lot better for the contractor.
Why they were in the
Delivery before it gets there. So we can look at that again and try to address that for the springtime. I think it's starting to get a little bit too cold for people to work on their driveways at this point, but we'll turn around and try to make some contacts and see whether or not we can come up with some driveway contract deals for the neighborhood for next year.
would certainly improve the neighborhood as well.
I agree. All right. Any other questions or comments before we move on for anything that is not on the agenda this evening? Okay. Troy, you did not give us the minutes from last month?
I didn't take them.
Who took the minutes last month?
I think Jeremiah did. I think Jeremiah did too.
Okay. And he's traveling, so we're going to forego the minutes and we'll turn around and approve them at next month's meeting on the 18th of November. Next review of the financial matters. I turned around and I gave everybody a copy of the short form on the bottom of their agenda of where we're at currently dollar-wise on the agenda. I do have everything else that's here. I think everybody else looked at it except for you, Troy. Is there any?
Hey, Todd. I've got some ideas for article, by the way. So I'll get in touch with you. No, I'll get in
Okay.
touch with you later.
All right, so essentially right now, as of today, there's about $14,385 in the bank. We do have a couple things that are going to be coming out of there. We still have to pay for the trash trucks. And then we have a couple of other things that are scheduled already. We have to do the deposit for the annual meeting and so on and so forth within there. And the hayride has got to come out of there. And we got to get that money back down to the $8,000. So if I could make a motion, or if I can ask for a motion rather, to accept the financials as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Tom makes the motion. Troy seconds. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Okay, going to move on to committee reports. The committee report, the Welcome Committee, as you can see in actually in the detail of what was here. Hold on a second. We made copies for the Welcome Committee because they have had a barrage of new folks coming into the community. We spent about $90 on copies for them for welcome packets and some other things that they needed in supply, basically at 30 to 35 homes per month, which is a very good pace for the neighborhood, and that the average home, from what they're seeing, is up about 15% from values over last year. And I think that's extraordinary. Definitely tells me that there is a rebound in the housing market, and that people are, I'm hearing from a lot of people that are coming into the community that they really appreciate what the HOA does and the way that the community is and what we have to offer. So I do appreciate Trish and the group that she has in the Welcome Committee going out and taking care of that on a monthly basis. The Garden Club, I did get a notice from Lois. They went out last weekend and did some work out in the garden, which is over in the park. I know Elaine is part of that group, as well as her husband Shelby, and they did a wonderful job cleaning up all that. I think that they took away about 6 bags of weeds and trash from out of there and got it all winterized. So I really do appreciate those folks taking their time to do that as well.
I have something to add. Ironwood Earth Care is very generous. Whenever we call him and ask him if we can have mulch for the garden, he says, when do you want it? And he delivers it. And so he delivered it on Thursday, and we did the work on Friday. There was way too much mulch for the garden, and so we transported it over to the corner of Buckley and Hamden, and so it now has mulch on it also, and it looks really good, and the garden looks really good. And I don't think that next year in the budget, $100.
Okay. Don't have anything on the 4th of July business and anything else. So next on our agenda, we have a guest speaker here from the Aurora Library. And if I can ask you to come on up, I have a microphone over here. And if I can ask you, let me see, we'll turn around and see where we can get you. We can get you back here. I think he'll be able to turn around to broadcast the meeting as well. So go ahead and make sure you can be heard on there.
Can everyone hear me? Parkway, and I'm just here to let you guys know about what the library does and the library that serves the community. We have Mission Viejo. If you have not been to it, there are great things going on. We do have lots of resources. I did bring with me a resource guide here that will show you what different programs we have going on for both adults, teens, and kids as well. And inside of here also, I've included a postcard that shows all of our databases and includes the link on how to get to our databases so you can further explore what databases we have to offer. If you're interested in learning a language, we do have a learning database that you can use. If you have children and they're studying to go to college, we do have a database. We have Learning Express that they can use to start studying for the ACTs and the SATs and stuff like that. They do also have college prep and stuff like that available. We do have a digital media lab that's coming up. The digital media lab is actually located off the Central. We don't have a digital media lab in our other branches just yet, but it's currently something we're working on. It does carry all the so if you're interested in photos, your handmade for your own card, we recommend that you get one. We're doing what you call the get the card, get the stickers. So what that does is we'll give you a little reward sticker that you can place on your library card, and what that does is you get discounts to certain businesses here in Aurora. So it's a really great deal. We're trying to get more businesses right now, 20. Subway is one of them. The hair cutting place, I can't even think, what one?
Great tips or cost cutters or?
It might be cost cutters, but I think it's right now you get one haircut for the price of, or you get two haircuts for the price of one. So it's definitely a reward that you want to cash in on. For example, there's Snake's Gardening. If you spend $25 or more, you get $5 off and stuff like that. So it's a pretty good deal. So again, if that's not something that you already have on your library card, I suggest you take your library card into the library and ask them about the rewards card. And again, if you want a full list of the different discounts that you can get for the different businesses, you can just go to auroralibrary.org. And again, I will hand you one of these resource guides before I leave today, so that way you guys can all have that information with you. Is there any questions that any of you have about the library or would like to know?
I didn't quite understand the part on Adobe. Where would I go to access that?
At the library, at the Central Library, which is off of Alameda.
Okay.
Yes.
And you can't do it online?
No, that
You have
is,
to come to the.
yes, you would actually have to come to the library because it's set up on one computer right now. Anytime you use the software, you get the software by licenses. So right now we only have a license set up for one computer. So we're kind of just trying it out and see, where it gets us. And that's something that libraries are doing now, is doing digital media labs. So that's something that we're working on, eventually expanding and making it bigger. So it could help with creativity and innovation for both, or for all three children, teens, and adults.
All right. Is there anybody else that has any other questions? I want to thank you very much for coming out and visiting with us tonight. Seems like the library is doing a lot of wonderful things as far as discount programs and other programs. I know Patty knows, and the folks here at the Mission Viejo Library know that when they have events, certainly if they let us know by about the 15th of the month, ahead of time, we try to get it out into the newsletter for the following month. So if there's a big event that you'd like us to put in the newsletter so that folks know about it, we'll be more than happy to do that.
Okay, well, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me here. And one thing I did forget to mention was ebooks. So if you guys have e-readers or tablets and are interested in ebooks, that's something we do offer as well.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
Can I ask you to grab that from her and unplug that, and I will push this back. I think I'm pushing it the right way. There we go. All right. So I did want to remind those folks that are here, we do have a sign-in sheet to the back of the room. We do ask you to sign in so that we know who was here at the meeting. If you haven't already done so, please do so before the meeting is over or at the end of the meeting. We would greatly appreciate it. So the next item on the agenda is unfinished business. The first item of unfinished business is the trash day, which was held on October 11th. And this is an after-action discussion. So I want to start by saying that I think that the day was very successful in what we did. We had 2 trash trucks come out on that day. Both of them were filled to about 98% capacity. We had more than 150 people participate in things that were being done that day. We had a few people sign up for trash. We had a few people who were not active members of the HOA turn around and pay dues so that they could utilize the program. So in that respect, it was successful in getting a few more people active within the HOA for that activity. It was we had a little bit of a rough start in the morning. We usually, when we see those trucks pulling in, they usually pull in about 10 minutes beforehand, and they pulled in at about 1 minute to 8, and we had several vehicles already lined up and ready to go in. But we were pretty busy until about the noon time when we had very, very little space left. And I think it's well worth the money that we put into it. I know that the people that did come were very appreciative of what it is that we had to offer. We had several people that turned around and told us, if they were to take that carload of trash down to the dump and have it dumped there, that they would have paid anywhere between $60 and $100 for what was in their carload. And if they were an active member of the HOA, either part of the trash program or an active paying member or one that had volunteered throughout the year, that there was no cost for them to turn around and dispose of those things. So I know a lot of the people that came and did that really appreciated that activity. That's at least my half of the report, and I want to ask you guys what you felt. Everybody on the board did make it to that event, and we had a really good turnout as far as the board was concerned. We had plenty of volunteers on hand to do that. So I'd certainly like to ask for your input on that as well. What do you think went absolutely fantastic? What do you think could have went better? What do we want to do for next year?
A comment that I would make, I guess, is that one of the things that we had, a resident brought a whole load of firewood, cut tree. I don't know if it would be feasible at all, but certain items might be reusable, shall we say. Somebody who burns fire in a fireplace might have, if we had maybe say, if you're going to bring something like that, we could say, well, let's set it off to the side for a little bit. But I don't know how you would advertise that you have it. So there would be some logistics issues with that. But, that would have been nice maybe to, instead of it going to the dump, to have been able, somebody could have maybe used it. But it was interesting to see a volume that was in all those trucks. There were trucks that stacked. I mean, like I say, they would, to go to the dump, they would have been a tremendous charge. And they came and it was like that. Those trucks just crunched them up, and away we went. I mean, it was.
I will tell you, Tom is referring to the first 2 vehicles that we had come in, and the first 2 vehicles, we had them go to one truck, those 2 vehicles, and then all the other vehicles from that point on, we had going to the second trash truck. For about 20 minutes, those 2 trucks were offloading their stuff into one trash truck. So if you can imagine, they were offloading everything in the vehicles that they had loaded up 20 minutes it took them to offload it and to put in that trash truck. So that was a tremendous, tremendous amount of material that they had that was offloaded. And say again, please. Oh, everything from bed frames to mattresses to you name it, it was in there.
There was storm door. I know there were fence panels. Just stuff. I mean, it was amazing the variety of stuff that we were pitching. A lot of where you could tell they maybe had stuff piled up in the backyards, broken toys, things like that. The little plastic toys, things that what are they called? Little three-wheeler things and stuff like that. Pools, broken after the summer. Just a variety of just stuff that a lot of fence material. Where people replaced their fences, and they were what was left of fencing. I would say there several vehicles had fencing material, and a lot of then one had 3 or 4 couches. And the trucks will crunch right up.
Oh no, ma'am.
No, it was all done right here in the parking lot here at the church. People brought it here.
They brought their own
The
vehicles.
people brought their own vehicles, loaded it up, and brought it here. Yeah. No, it was kept right here. They had to come to us.
I know, with those.
With the other people?
Could do signups next
They
year.
may have, I don't know.
Oh, I can't lift the stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know,
We have way more volunteers.
I know,
And I can appreciate where you're coming from. The problem is that unless we have volunteers to go, to first of all, offer their vehicle to get it, to us, and number 2, to load that up for you, it requires a lot of folks. I myself, I got a bad arm that I've been nursing for 2 years, and I can't lift that kind of stuff. And I know that there are other folks that just don't have the capability to do that. Other people are, while it's a truck, and I have one myself, and everybody tells me, oh, it's a truck, it's meant to get dirty, and it's meant to put that stuff in it. You still try to keep the paint on it and not to get it scratched and everything else. So some people are just very, very particular about who can put stuff in, how much stuff goes in, so on and so forth. And so it's a very, very delicate situation. We can certainly try to ask that question next year. If there are folks that are unable to transport that stuff up, whether or not they want to sign up, so that we can try to get some folks down to you. But we've got to know that at least, several days ahead of time. And certainly, I know that nobody emailed me, nobody called me, nobody asked a question on our hotline for that, and they haven't done that for the last 2 years. So this is the first that we're hearing of that concern. So it's certainly something we'll think about for next year.
Yeah, I don't have a truck, but I have some stuff, but it seems to me that those 2 trucks are filled with one-home trash. They didn't get it from their own houses, but they had to have gotten it from me.
One of the trucks is from his own house, I can tell you that.
yeah, I don't know. But
Well, and some of these people turned around and they quite frankly said that the material that was being brought out and that they were getting rid of made it so that they actually had space to park their car in the garage that they hadn't been able to do for years.
Right.
So, when you really take a look at it, it really has made a difference for some families that they actually got rid of junk that they really didn't need anymore, and made it so that they can actually get their cars in the garage.
And we
No,
had,
there was one couple who said they had renovated and bought new furniture, and it was in the garage, so it was well worth their while to come in and do it. So,
yeah,
and I agree with you, like I don't have a truck and I am not able to lift a lot of really heavy things. A lot more volunteer help. I can't see where 3 or 4 board members who show up with the same things all the time, I can't lift things into the truck, so.
Right.
Extending that out to have trucks drive around, you still need people to lift it up and put it in the truck, so.
right, and that's certainly an option we could put out.
But certainly, again, it's something that we have to know ahead of time that you have stuff at your house that you'd be willing to do that with. Yes, ma'am.
I would bet that a lot of people would be willing to pay for sofa over $20.
Yeah.
Which would save you dump fees and.
Right.
sofa
Right.
And.
Well, and we did have one family came,
Come to my house for $20.
and we had a family that actually rented a U-Haul and brought a U-Haul loaded.
That was the same ones that renovated.
Yeah, they renovated their home. They actually took a U-Haul, loaded bed frames, stuff like that, and brought it down. I actually went down to one of the volunteers that we had for a cleanup. We knew she had some stuff in her yard and she didn't have a vehicle to haul anything in. I went and used my truck and got some of her stuff and brought it.
The only person that we knew of that said that they didn't
Yeah.
have a vehicle and could somebody come help me.
And so we did that, because we knew. So that's something certainly for next year.
If we have bed frames and stuff being done, there's a lot of scrappers that are going around right now. We should also invite or announce that scrappers should come and pick through people's trash.
Yeah, we just have to
Before
be
it goes in the
careful,
truck.
make sure there's no liability of issues that we'd have to check into.
I mean, that guy in the red truck comes to my house every week.
Yeah.
I love that
So,
guy.
but we,
I put stuff out front of my house and I put free. And I never failed to get rid of anything, and
Yep.
it's gone within minutes. I don't know who they are.
Yeah.
He's got a radar.
You know, I picked chairs and ladders, something, put free on it, and it's gone.
yeah, there are the metal recycling guys that'll go and, that's,
Good deal for them, good deal.
It's
right.
all in one spot.
So, those are some items that we can think about for future times, but it was very successful, good cleanup.
Is it always in October?
We've been
Yes.
doing it, this is our second year, we did it in October and, end of summer cleanup. It's an appropriate time of year, people are ready to do that.
I did,
Is that something that, like, I've got a couple neighbors that have basketball goals and they can lay it on the ground next to their.
and if they wanted to get rid of it,
As
yeah,
long
they
as
could.
as long as we can fit it up into that truck and it can crunch it, and it will, those are hydraulic rams, are solid, it was amazing how, I certainly want anything pinned in there, because it will take it right off, because it crunched up. So, one of the couches was a sleeper sofa, and it crunched it right up into the truck it went.
So and the other thing that we were able to do to help out the church here at the same time is we were able to hook up to, they had 2 dead junipers sitting in the middle of the parking lot, and they were pretty high up. And we were able to strap onto those, and the trucks turned around and hooked up to them, and we ripped the roots and everything else out of there and got rid of those things out of there. It was nothing for that truck to do anything of that nature. And the roots were pretty big, and the ball was pretty big and heavy, and it took us 4 of us just to lift it to get it in to the start of getting it into the truck. We didn't have to chop it up or anything else. And as soon as we started getting it in there, what wound up happening is they put that arm down and it just started sucking the whole thing up in there. And so within like 5 minutes, we had it all done. So I know that the church really appreciated us finally getting rid of those as well. We did have a couple of comments and a couple of ideas for next year. And seeing that I have some of you here, I do want to ask for your opinion on this. We looked at next year possibly saying from 8 to 10 o'clock, we're only going to have it open to those people who are active paying members. And then after 10 o'clock, to open it up to non-active members and even folks outside of Mission Viejo, that's whether or not we have space permitting. And there's a reason that we were looking at this, and that is because first of all, we want to give first priority to those people who are active members, those who have paid their dues, those who have done what they need to do beforehand. And then, whether or not it's that additional 2 or 3% in the back of that truck that's left, that we probably, you'd be surprised when you have 150 people and so on and so forth, that extra 2% per vehicle actually could have taken care of 4 or 5, probably maybe even 6 different loads of trash going in there, and possibly more. And if we did it and asked them for a donation of $30 to do it, and it helps out neighboring communities, my thought is this: if I'm able to help out 20 people who are normally non-paying members, that would be $600. And $600 is what we pay for the cost of the truck. To be there for 4 hours. So essentially, if I'm able to turn around and open it, and even turn around and get a third truck, I can turn around and it would more than pay for itself in the long run. I think if we had 20 people show up and utilize that truck who are non-active members within the Mission Viejo community.
Well, the $30 is what it costs to be a member, right?
Exactly. What we're saying is that, right now we don't allow Seville, French Creek, so on and so forth, because they're not members of Mission Viejo Homeowners Association. It then allows it to be open to them to say for some pittance of $30, you can turn around and get this taken care of. And quite frankly, we were able to turn around and we thought about, we were marking cards, and somebody said, hey, maybe next year we need to give out, a dumpster day card that says, that you've already gone through and you checked through, so that we can kind of keep track of who's who kind of thing. Because we had several people coming, 1, 2, 3 carloads. And do we want to do something different? So, yeah, but again, I do want to have some feedback from folks to see whether or not that's something that they would like to see have happen. So certainly, if you have comment on that and would like to make some input on that, please email us, let us know, so that we can continue to have the program evolve. It's only the second year that we've done this, and have it continue to grow and be beneficial for the community. On to the next item on the agenda, which is the holiday lighting contest. I do have all of my signs back except for 2 from last year. I'm still trying to track those 2 down. And we're still holding on to the prize money from last year for those 2. You don't get the money until you give us back the sign, so we can reutilize the sign. The signs cost us about $25 a piece, so we want to make sure that if you are a winner, that you won't get issued your award check, so to speak, until you turn around and bring it back to sign. This way here, we're not rebuy sign or repurpose those and reuse those every year, so that we can be good on that. We are going to do it in the 5 general areas that we did it in last year. North, south, east, and west parts of the neighborhood, and then the central part of the neighborhood. We're going to rely on, you'll see it come out in the newsletter, we're going to rely on people to do the same thing they did last year. You can self-nominate, you can nominate a neighbor. We need to know the homeowner's name. We need to have a picture of what's there so that we can kind of take a look, so that as we get the judges to go around, that those folks will know where they're going and what they're voting on, and we will not judge any home that has not been submitted. Okay? And I have been talking with the school as well, and they are going to provide us 1 or 2 judges from the school, either teachers and or folks on the PTA board from the school. They're going to help us out with doing that, so that it's not just folks within the HOA, that it's kind of balanced out, and we'll take a look from there. We're also trying to figure out how to incorporate using some type of thing like Facebook. We can't use the current neighborhood next door neighbor. Next door neighbor does not have the ability to do this thing called that's like a like, where you can turn around and click on the picture and like it once and can't vote on it again and again and again. They don't have that ability like Facebook does. We do have a Facebook page, and we're more than likely going to add those pictures there as well. And we will turn around and we will consider people's likes on those pictures as well. So the lighting contest and the submission period is from 1 to 7 December. That gives folks a little bit of time after Thanksgiving to get their lights up and ready. And then judging will take place between the 8th and the 10th. Our hope is then to, between the 11th and the 13th, to get signs out in all of those homes that are either winners or runner-up, so that when we get to the hayride on the 13th, that those signs will be in people's yards. Okay.
How much are the prizes, and how many prizes are given?
There are 5 first place prizes of $50 each and 5 second place prizes of $25 each. It is the same prizes that were offered last year for the holiday lighting contest. It is something that we have had people asking us to do for several years. Last year was the first year we did it. This will be the second year we're doing it. So we're hoping that the contest will continue to grow, and I think we've committed to when we first started the holiday lighting contest, that we committed to doing it for 3 years to try to give it enough time to build and to grow, to see whether or not people like the idea or were totally opposed to the idea. So this is our second year, so I know that we'll have it this year and at least next year, and after that, the board will revisit looking at whether or not they want to continue that.
Should do a Halloween one. Every house is decorated in our neighborhood.
I know.
A few in ours.
Yeah.
All right. So the holiday hayride. Holiday hayride is I do have the contract. It's already been sent back. It is from 4:30 to 8 o'clock. The last ride is supposed to be coming back at 8 o'clock, so the last ride will actually be at 7:45 that evening. Todd is working on putting together the piece that attaches to the website. People must sign up on the HOA's website in order to get a seat or seats on the time that you are looking for. We are doing, like we have the past few years, 2 carriages being horse-drawn pulled. It will be down starting in Mission Viejo Park, near where the walkway is in between the 2 ball fields. It's going to be right on the curb there. We're going to have a tent to kind of warm things up a little bit, and we're going to make sure that we have some inside lighting and that kind of thing. And so we're asking people, not to bring food and stuff. I know we're going to have some snacks, some hot items and everything else to try to keep folks warm. But we're going to try to keep things moving. We're doing it down there so that we can incorporate other parts of the neighborhood that have not been driven around before.
And have we requested volunteers for that?
Yes.
Do we have any?
No.
Besides board?
No. So it does take about 4 people to put up the tent that we use that evening, and it takes about half an hour, 40 minutes to put up. And then, of course, the heaters and that kind of thing we need to get up as well, and those things need to be torn down that evening. We are looking for people who would like to volunteer to help us put that up and take that down on that day. So please, if you have a little bit of time that you can spare on that Saturday evening, we would greatly appreciate it if you could turn around and
Can you email us their information if they'd like to volunteer?
yes, and I will remind Todd to put that in the newsletter.
Questions? We got 2 questions.
1 second. Yes.
I'm curious how much it costs for the holiday hayride.
I don't have the contract in front of me. I believe that it is costing us around $1,500 to $2,000 for that. That's the care of the horses, and everything else is included in that. They also clean up behind the horses, etc. We did talk with them a little bit about making sure that there's better signage out this year. I know that we had a lot of folks, and we're trying to take a look at how we might be able to do that as well, to try to slow traffic down around that. It really puts, you can really scare horses that way with honking horns or people just whizzing by the horses as they're trying to make round a turn. So that contract has already been let and has already been put in place for the hayride. Yes, somebody else had a question? How long? Well, it takes about 45 minutes to set the tent and stuff up. We would certainly need that probably from around 3:30 to about 4:15. And then probably it takes a lot less to take it down because it'll be probably wet when it comes down. And so we'll have to put it somewhere else overnight in a dry spot to make sure that it gets dry. So I'm thinking that it probably only take about 20 minutes or so to tear down and to get it packed up.
I think you're gonna need volunteers from like 4 till 8:30, right?
If people would like to volunteer also to turn around and make sure that the people who signed up for the rides are getting on the rides, we need those as well.
So
You can email me at president@missionviejohoa.org.
I started the holiday hayride years ago, and I always thought that one of the nicest parts of it were all the people coming in and they brought cookies and whatever to share, and everybody kind of, we had it here, for a couple of years at that time, and I always thought that was a nice, people would come in and they were cold, or they would get here early and they would come in and just sit and talk and stuff like that. Granted, I see that, maybe you end up in the same places all the time, but I think it's a nice,
It is a nice atmosphere. I agree with you. However, we have been asked several times by people in other parts of the neighborhood to do it at another location or make it so that the rides are longer, so that their parts of the neighborhood could be included in the holiday hayride as a destination and not just forgotten about. They feel like they're left out of that process.
Did it just go around the school?
Well, when it was up here, we did it, because it's only a half an hour ride, and so you can only go maybe a half a mile in a half an hour, maybe a little bit more than that. When it was down by the elementary school, it went to the inner circle, so it doesn't go very far out from where you are. So you have to turn around, and rather than being exclusive to people, you have to be inclusive.
yeah, actually this year we figured it'll help us catch some of that more to the east part of the neighborhood, in the central east part. So, that have not had the opportunity to be shown. So,
There's some nice houses up there that decorate nicely.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right. So I want to continue on here. Any other discussion for that from the board for the holiday hayride? We're good to go. All right. Annual meeting preparation. I can tell you that the school has been reserved. Letter has been sent along with a copy of the insurance and the check for the annual meeting over at the elementary school. We have confirmed it for the 20th of January 2014, starting at 6:30 p.m. Excuse me?
Should be January 20th, 2015.
2015.
Thank you.
Thank you.
correct.
Thank you.
And it does start at 6:30.
It does start at 6:30.
Until what time?
Until it's over. It starts at 6:30 until it's over. One of the reasons that we had gone to the electronic voting kind of thing is that previously, when we didn't have electronic voting, sometimes that meeting would extend all the way through to 10 o'clock.
You have to get
And
volunteers.
that is an extraordinary amount of time. I always hated annual meetings because of the amount of time that it actually took. This allows folks to get in there. They don't have to check in at the annual meeting. Everything is already done because we have established a quorum, and then we're able to go right into the presentations. And by 8 o'clock in the evening is the period of time that we cut voting off, and by 8:05 we actually have the results and are able to announce the results.
We were adjourned by 8:30 last year, weren't we?
We were adjourned by 8:25 last year. And there's two questions, and we're still on the school reservation, but is this involving the school reservation or electronic voting? Okay, what happens at the annual meeting? So at the annual meeting, what we try to do is we try to gather a couple things. We do a quick review of what the HOA has accomplished for you in the past year. We turn around and try to highlight the events that we've taken care of throughout the year. We go through and we ask community leaders, and that is anywhere from the neighborhood liaison officer from the city of Aurora, the PAR officer, the fire chief from locally here, the elementary school, the middle school, the high school, neighborhood watch. I mean, there's just a large variety of folks that we ask and invite to come down to do a 5 to 8 minute presentation so that we can continue to keep the meeting moving, and give folks an idea of other things that are possible within the community. I know last year the library, Michigan Viejo Library, was also in attendance and so on and so forth, trying to just get out the word of things that are going on within the community. So
then it's also where we announce we take the rest of the votes. Voting is open through that evening. So voting for any new board members is conducted. Voting on the annual budget that we present is conducted. And then, again, when we publicize again what we've accomplished and also what we're looking to do the next year and stuff. So, and then each year you're approving the previous year's minutes and things like that.
All right, and Elaine, is your comment to the electronic voting, is that where you're going to go back to? Yeah. All right, I will allow you no more than 5 minutes on any further discussion having to do with electronic voting. 5 minutes is the absolute, I'm cutting you off, and that's it, and then the board is going to turn around and continue on with its meeting as far as that's concerned. If you want to wait until we turn around and open the floor up for discussion with the board, and you feel an urgent need to comment to us then, you can wait until then, but once you reach that 5 minutes, it's done. Because we've already expended more time on this single issue tonight than we had planned on. Okay? All right. So would you like to wait, or would you like to speak first?
I would like to speak.
Okay? Floor is yours.
Okay. I feel that that what Todd said about having more people vote. I know that 70 people voted last year, and there was electronic voting. And I know that in previous years, probably the last year that I was on the board, a lot more people voted than did last year. I think that for the savings of $1,500, it would be worth the board giving us a chance to do the voting by mail and see what the turnout is. I don't think that 70 people, and this would also be done ahead of time. You wouldn't have to worry about it that evening because there would be a deadline in the letter saying that people should ballots returned by such and such a date. And we can certainly find someone that would be not biased in one manner or another that we could trust to count the votes as they came into the house.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a very simple question then, as far as that's concerned. So, are you suggesting that if it is a mailing ballot, that there be no what is it that we had a couple of years that we had previous years?
Proxies.
No proxies.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think there should be a proxy. You said that there was no more proxy.
Right. Well, with electronic voting, it makes it very easy because the individuals vote. I will turn around and tell you that the numbers are kind of skewed when you take a look at a couple of years ago when, like the last time you were on the board, there were proxies. There were hundreds of proxies.
Yes.
And so when you actually take a look at the number of people that actually voted and how many proxies there were only about 60 people voting and the rest were people's proxies, right? And so there is an increase in the number, and the amount, by the way, in the electronic voting that's there doesn't only allow you to go online and vote, it is also calling in and pressing a button. So it doesn't matter whether or not you have internet or not, it allows you to do all those things. And we're finding that it was something that we've had several years, people asking us to move forward and move into the 21st century on. Was there anything else that you wanted to comment on?
The other thing that I would reiterate is that the budget does not have to be approved by the neighborhood because it's a voluntary association. So whatever the board says, so that is not really an important thing to vote on. many times there are not anybody, there's only the same amount of people, openings on the board. We have the same number of people to vote for, so that's not really an issue. And the minutes from the previous year are not really, that's a year-old stuff, and it's not really anything that matters. I mean, in particular, because it's mostly people that speak. So I feel that we're spending $2,500 voting for things that really don't matter in particular. And also, we could save $1,500. Now, that to me is worth my time and effort to speak about.
Well, to say that none of these things matter, I beg to differ with you. By state law, we are required.
I know that's
right?
true.
So it's not that they don't matter. They do matter very much so, because without having those elections, whether or not there's only one person running, without having those elections, we do not meet the state rules and guidelines for HOAs. And so we have to make sure that we're in full compliance with those state laws to make sure that we are operating correctly, okay?
And would you agree that a mail-in ballot is operating correctly?
Mail-in ballot or an electronic ballot, either one of them are valid. The state law says that if you have a mail-in ballot, you have to have the opportunity for a proxy for anybody who did not receive it and then comes to the, I did not receive my ballot, I need to be able to vote, or turn around and gave a note to somebody else that identifies that. That is a provisional vote that then turns around and allows you to have, there's a whole bunch of rules behind it. With the electronic voting, that electronic voting stays open until 8 p.m. the night of the meeting, which turns around and allows you actually, at the meeting, we do have a small discussion about some of those things, to turn around and say, yes, no, I want to vote for this person, I don't want to vote for that person. You will see in the November November newsletter that we are again soliciting for people on the board, okay? Not to say that we need to add more people to the board or anything else. It is simply to say that if we want people to have the opportunity to serve on the board, I certainly don't want to be sitting on the board, 10 years from now. I would certainly like other people to step up and to turn around and to be involved in the community in which they live and to try to make a difference. And
we've been hoping for that for a long time.
We've been hoping for that for a long time, but we have to afford people that opportunity. And to afford people that opportunity to do it. All right. So the 5 minutes is up on the discussion. You have a comment now? The electronic voting was sent out by mail along with your discount card by a third-party contractor. It was sent out in the middle of December with information as to you got a special code, whether or not you called in or whether or not you went online. That code was only valid for one-time use. You could not go in there and vote more than once, and it identified you as an individual. They turned around and they kept the records of who voted, who didn't, how many votes were yes, no, for this person, for that person, whatever the case was. And at 8 o'clock on the night of the annual meeting, the gates to it were closed down, and they turned around and they sent us the final results. So we didn't have to have anybody tally it or anything. You could, and we did have several computers in the back of the room as well to allow people to, if they did not have a computer at home or access to the internet at home, for them to log in. And we had several volunteers back there ready and willing and able to help people who had that access code who hadn't voted yet that wanted to do that before 8 p.m. We had them have that ability to do that. So, all right, on to the business at hand with you guys. Number one, we have the contract. The contract is coming in for under $2,500. It's actually coming in at about $2,000 to do the same thing we did last year. That is the current contract that I have in front of me. We need to know what is going to be done as far as the contract is concerned before the discount cards are completed. We've ordered them. We asked them to be printed. They're going to be done before the end of this week. We've asked the folks to hold off on where to mail it to, so that we can turn around and either have them mailed directly to the contractor in Florida, and who would then turn around and send us any discount cards remaining after the mailing, as well as, yeah. So let me ask first if someone would like to make a motion on the contract for electronic voting.
So the contract includes all the mailing.
It includes all the mailing, the postage, the
Mailing discount cards.
mailing the discount cards, taking care of, keeping track of all the stuff, keeps it all out of our hands.
So it's 2,000 instead of 2,500.
Yes, it's 2,000. It's about the same as what it was last year. $2,500 is what we had put on the budget.
Okay.
That is,
So-
there's a difference between the budgeted amount and the amount that we got the contract for.
Because I was with Elaine on the savings thing. I get it 100%. I'm stuck in the middle, knowing that the contention in the community in the last few years,
Right.
that kind of threw me to the other side. So I'm in the middle. I
Okay.
agree with the savings, but if it's 2,000, that's only an extra $500 spend for, there could be no games.
Right. And certainly the way I look at it is the $500 difference is, you know, if I take a look at how the amount of time that it would take to stuff, you know, 1,500 envelopes and put stamps on and all that other stuff.
A lot.
That's a lot of time and energy and effort. A lot of time, energy, and effort. You're talking at least.
We don't have then mailing labels.
I'm with you.
Right, mailing labels, right, because
Yeah.
you're talking mailing labels, all these other things that are not on this list here, right? Mailing labels are expensive, you gotta do that. You can't just write it straight on the envelope.
You could, if you
You
know.
could, but if,
It was printable, if you can
You
do it,
only
but.
gave
right.
me a handful and it still took me an hour between labels and envelopes.
right,
stuff
and that was
and
that was like
folding them
50,
correctly.
yeah.
Yeah, there wasn't
Okay,
that
so are we
many.
open for a motion?
So I'm open for a motion.
I make a motion that we.
All right.
Work the contract as it's set up.
Okay, Tom makes the motion. Do I have a second? And then we can go to further discussion. If we have a second,
Okay.
you second?
Carrie, I'll second.
Gary seconds. Okay, now further discussion.
I'm stuck in the middle.
I know you're stuck in the middle,
And that's okay.
and that's fine.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking about the amount of time, right, that,
Oh, I see.
you know, that,
No, I see both sides, like, I see it. So
Absolutely.
I'm good.
you know, the other thing I'm looking at is, you know, where we're sitting at with money-wise and, you know, it's a budgeted item. We want to continue to move forward this year and take a look at it for next year. You know, I think that we're a little bit behind the
Make the change now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'll go through it this year and then look at it again next year and see.
okay.
And we can poll the community again, get ideas of what
All
we're
right,
doing.
so there's okay, so continue with the contracts for this year. And do a survey
Mhm.
for
For 2015.
I think you also have to
Parcel
lay out the
2015.
man hours and stuff to get spent on it again. There's no way that the board members should be stuck
No, and Elaine is, and Elaine is,
on the
yeah.
night of the election is what I'm talking about.
And again, you know, I agree, you know, with proxies, and part of the problem is that, in the past, when we've had to do proxies or turn around and wait for people, if they have to mail it in, you know, if they have to go online, if there's no postage or anything else, and so on and so forth, we have to get a certain number of votes in for us to have a quorum before the annual meeting can even
Officially
start. So the question is do, you know, if we have it all beforehand, not a problem. We can continue and we can move forward. The problem that we've had in the past is that you can't even start the annual meeting until you wind up getting a quorum.
How many volunteers outside the board sit there from 6 till 10 o'clock at night?
Well, I can tell you just the check-in alone, when you have an annual meeting based upon the other way, everybody has to sign in, right?
An hour.
Okay.
And it
so
takes
the
literally an
question
hour.
is, how many more volunteers are there aside from the board
Oh,
helping out
maybe
with
we
the
had help.
evening from 4 till 10 o'clock at night?
maybe 6 or 8 more.
About 8 more.
Okay, so we actually had volunteers for that night.
No, we did.
We did.
We struggled, but we
Tom's
did.
wife, my wife.
Yeah.
Right, so I mean, you know, part of the problem is that, you know, they're volunteers and they're out of the entire meeting, right? Because we're trying to get ready for the meeting and trying to get all that stuff taken care of, trying to check people in, and trying to count votes and do this, that, and the other thing. They probably spend, I would say, probably 3 hours doing stuff to take care of that stuff. But for 8 people, 3 hours.
Again, we need more volunteers.
Right. I agree.
That's my point.
I agree.
Without getting into, you know,
Yeah.
each and everything about the taxes and everything else.
Yeah.
I'm talking, we need more volunteers again.
Again. Yeah.
Okay, so,
I think we're done with discussion.
all right, so I think we're done with discussion. So, I think I heard a modification to just going forward with the contract for this year, to amend it to say, to go forward with the contract for this year, and to have a survey done.
But I think the survey is that's just a decision for next year, I think, based on the.
But we have to
contract.
include it within the budget, regardless of the
Yeah.
costs, whether or not, maybe the line, instead of saying electronic voting on the budget, will just say annual voting,
Annual election voting.
okay? And
Then it,
to kind of leave it open for next year, we'll leave the budget at 2,000, 2,500, and if we don't wind up using it and going the opposite direction, then we have plenty of space.
Right.
But I urge them, the board, to look at, and put this in the notes, if you don't mind, to turn around and look at early on in the year, to take a look at what venue we're going to use next year for voting.
Right. Yeah.
Decide by March. Decide by March or decide by April.
Right.
So that it's not a thing of contention come September, October, November, right? Because
And we'll have plenty of time to plan.
right? And so that there's plenty of time to plan. So that is what I heard that the amended motion is. The survey, I could ask Todd to put that into the newsletter, as well as to have it closed by December 1st this year, and turn around and have another one so that we kind of have a quick pulse, and then turn around and have people respond. We can even put it as an item for electronic voting for next year on the annual meeting voting. We can make it an issue for voting, okay? All right. So I think that that's all the discussion. So we have the amended, so now it comes to the vote. All in favor of the amended proposal? Aye, aye, aye. It goes unanimously for this year. All right. Discount cards I've already discussed, to say that we have ordered. New business. There was an email that I received about fruit trees in the neighborhood. So I want to remind folks that do have fruit trees in the neighborhood that if you have a apple tree, orange tree, or whatever, and fruit is falling off of it, regardless of whether or not that fruit is falling in your yard or outside in the walkway, it is your responsibility to turn around and to clean up behind that fruit that is there. There are rotting apples, and if they don't, Access Aurora, they can be cited and they can be fined if somebody turns around and is walking and it happens to be raining and happens to slip on a rotting apple, for example. That homeowner can be cited, and they and their insurance can be held liable for failing to maintain a clear pathway. So with that in mind, what this email also talked about was that this year happened to be a bumper crop for fruits, et cetera, and they asked us to take a look at and whether or not we thought pair up neighbors with neighbors. In that there are a lot of people that love to get in the kitchen and cook and take apples and cut them up and make applesauce or make apple pie or do whatever. I know my wife is one of them, and so she's been knocking on doors and telling people, hey, you know, if you don't mind, can I get up in your tree and take down some apples and take care of that? We've taken care of several families in doing that. And what this person is suggesting is that next year we try to take a look at whether or not we can put something in a newsletter and try to pair up at least in some sort of database, or somebody having somebody coordinating it to where we can pair up people who would like to pick apples with those people who have apple trees so that there's not as much debris on the side of their homes in the front and the back, and that more of that fruit is picked and actually used to help the community.
Maybe even put a corner in the newspaper, just like the teenagers volunteer to do lawns and
Right.
things. People could submit their information and what type of fruit.
Right.
It's
So we're looking at how we might be able to do that next year. I wanted to at least let you guys know what somebody had suggested on that. I do think it's a good idea. You know, fruits and vegetables are becoming more and more expensive, and if you have stuff growing in your yard rather than it rotting, you know, it'd be good to have that taken care of. I know that, you know, a lot of several of those properties, by the way, that my wife was very particular on the properties that she went to. She always, when she turned around and she was asking, most of the people that she asked were elderly people, and you know, they may have planted that tree 20 years ago, and it's been providing them fruit all these years, and now they just can't get out there and just can't snip those apples off the tree, and just can't bend over and to pick up all those apples, but they still have the responsibility to it. So, yes. Let me tell you, the Boy Scouts do quite a bit. Jeremiah, he's constantly looking for projects for the Boy Scouts, and I'm also working with the elementary school to take a look at. They have a program down there for some of their students that are high performers, and how they may be able to help. So we're trying to look at every way that we can, again, try to pair up volunteers in the community with able-bodied help, with the needs of the community. We're trying to take a look at all those things. However, please realize the HOA cannot be all things to everybody. We simply cannot do it. There are over 2,080 homes in our neighborhood, and regardless of how much we try, we simply cannot be what everybody wants us to be all at the same time. It just doesn't function that way. So I wanted to just make you guys aware of that. So we do not have any City of Aurora project plans, and our next meeting will be on November 18th. There any other announcements that anybody has before we turn around and close the meeting?
Are you finalizing the budget on November 18th?
We will be finalizing the budget. That I know that Jeremiah is working on the budget. He couldn't be here tonight because he has a business trip, and therefore that budget plan was pushed back a month. But he already has some stuff, and there is already discussion going on what that budget will look like before it gets to the meeting. There'll be some final number crunching at the meeting, but we do not expect there to be too much budget crunching or number crunching at the meeting. That most of it will have been submitted to Jeremiah prior to that meeting by each of the areas.
No December meeting, right?
There, what is the December date for? If we're able not to do a December meeting, then that's
18th,
November.
Then we'd be looking at the 16th.
Six-
If we have to.
Yeah, and there's a December meeting this year.
Huh?
There's a meeting this year.
Yeah,
Yeah, we should be able to do that.
December 16th, yeah.
Yeah, because we won't hit the holiday week yet. So,
Yeah,
All right.
good question.
Do you think that the budget could be more specific, like, if it says like, activities in the neighborhood, if it could say 4th of July, $1,500, holiday hayride, $2,000, music in the
You
park.
asked the same question, I believe, to us 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And the answer is that it is left as a broad topic, as a broad area item, so that for every item that we have on our budget, according to state law, for every item that we have on our budget, if I turn around and go to the length to say that it is the hayride, it is this, I don't just say that it is for activities, then every single one of those line items has to be reported on from our taxes and everything else. All of that information has to go back to the state. All of that stuff has to be reported back to. If I leave it as community events, as one line item, everything gets lumped into that one line item. So if I don't spend the total amount of money on one, and I can transfer to another, I can do whatever. Otherwise, it has to be very specific to every line item. And that is a nightmare for the person doing the accounting, and the treasurer reports is simply a nightmare. And I don't wish that for anybody. Don't wish it for anybody, not even an accounting firm doing it. When we had it, and it was a management company doing it, and we were paying for that service, sure, I'll turn around and I would agree with you. But seeing that it's an individual doing it and he's not getting paid an accounting wage to do that, which is about $60 an hour, I really don't want to go down that road.
I didn't really suggest that in particular for that. I suggested that it be in the newsletter, like each month, what major expenditures were made, by the HOA each month, just so people could see where the money was going. I thought that would be a valuable, of interest to people in the neighborhood.
All right.
We're just letting people know what this cost last year. Not a budget, just the information.
And when they come to the annual meeting, and that information is usually, and has been in the past, demonstrated at the annual meeting. We have those numbers at the annual meeting on what each of those events cost for the previous year. Sometimes we turn around and put it within the same budget line to say that these were for community events. However, if someone were to ask me to do a drawdown on that number, usually at the annual meeting, I'm able to do that. But until then, I can't really tell you, because a budget is a budget. It's not real numbers, okay?
And what is it for?
For the annual meeting, I would have to look exactly for the number on there, but it's a certain percentage of the total active membership.
And there's about 1,100.
About 1,200 is about the number that we're at right now, active members.
Last year, 17,000.
Yes,
So that's 11%.
and it was actually 68, I think, was the number that we needed last year.
So this year maybe more.
This year it's probably going to be more, right? Okay. All right.
Anything more?
So if there's nothing else, it is now 7:57.
No, it's 8 o'clock.
Sure.
I was curious if somebody's had all of our street signs paved and not visible, and now, we noticed, or in the last month, utility companies have come and tore them up and just left dirt on there. Is that legal happening now, or is the city have
They're supposed to come back, and they're supposed to refill it with asphalt. If they don't, turn around and call Access Aurora and say that
We are supposed to, because, like, our beautiful streets, and now we have two big old dirt.
You know, the thing is that in the best of days, you can turn around and say, pay the street, nothing is going to happen underneath the street, but you got sewers, you got all this other stuff that's down there, utilities and everything else. And if something goes wrong, they got to open it up. If there's a gas leak, they got to turn around, they got to rip everything open. And sometimes they leave it with just dirt on top of it for a few days to make sure that the issue is totally resolved before they have another group come in and turn around and pound the asphalt on there. And sometimes they have a subcontractor that comes in and does it. In the meantime, they pack it up with dirt. Certainly, if that is happening on your street and they don't fix it within what you would consider to be a reasonable period of time, contact Access Aurora, tell them it's been that way for several weeks, and tell them you need to have somebody come out there, approved to come out there and to fix it on your street.
Yeah, give them the street.
Yep, they'll ask you for the street address that's close adjacent to where the damage is on the street, all right?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Perfect.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any
Third.
further discussion? All right, it is 8 o'clock, meeting is adjourned. All those in favor? Aye. See you all next month.